Hey everyone, welcome back to Shelly Moves. Today I just wanted to talk to you about, just kind of update you on my life of what I've been up to for the last few years. I think the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the fact that I recently became a mom of two. Well, not that recently. It feels like yesterday, but it wasn't. My son Dana is now 14 months old, and my son Jonas, who was probably about 2 or 3 years old last time I posted a video, is now 5 and he's in school. So time flies, 100%. I became pregnant with Dana at a very inopportune time, again. And that was right before the pandemic started, so in December of 2019. And it also happened to be right at the end of my 3rd year of medical school, and that's 3 out of 4 years. So I went into my final year of medical school basically in the middle of a worldwide pandemic and pregnant. So it was a really, really difficult road getting through last year. Sometimes don't even know how I made it through, if I'm completely honest, because it was rough. So as soon as the pandemic was kind of, announced, if that's the right word, all the medical students were basically like shooed out of the hospital, because obviously having anybody in the hospital that we didn't need at that particular time was kind of a liability. And so we spent about, say it was a good 6 weeks doing online learning, which was interesting. It was good for me because it was during like my first trimester, so I was kind of still getting like morning sickness and stuff. So I was kind of relieved to not have to be going to the hospital every day. But on the other side, it's like a lot of time that we missed out on being in the hospitals. So especially in your final year, because the big assessment at the end of the final year is an OSCE, which is like a practical exam where you have to go through a series of stations, and you basically have to pretend like you're in the scenario and what you would do and say the right things and do the right things, and it's a very high stress exam format, and the only way to practice for it is to do it over and over and over again. And unfortunately those opportunities weren't really afforded to us for the final year graduates last year. There's also a lot of uncertainty about whether or not we would graduate, when we would graduate, because people were talking about that we were going to graduate early, whether we would even have exams or not. People were saying we wouldn't even have to have exams, we would just go straight to being doctors. When we would start working, some people were saying that we might like start working straight away. And whenever you're pregnant and you basically have like a ticking time bomb inside of you before your life basically changes forever, and even though it wasn't my first baby, it still changes your life in a way that, you know, you can't predict what's going to happen. So it was very stressful because, you know, one minute there was just so much uncertainty and nothing was ever really clarified, it felt like, until the last minute, because everyone was just kind of making it up as they went. So that was interesting. When we finally did get back into the hospital, I was like on a rush to get as much hospital time done before I gave birth. Because I think I got back into the hospital when I was about like 30 weeks. So I only had maximum of 10 weeks to get in basically a year's worth of training. Pregnant, like heavily pregnant. So I spent a lot of time last year waddling around the hospital, like just completely miserable, like on these super long ward rounds, going around seeing patients, like bumping into stuff. My belly was always in the way. It kept me active at the end of my pregnancy, which was good because I literally went to class until the day before I gave birth. I went into labor on a Saturday and I had been at the hospital on the Friday. So I'm pretty proud of that. There's also a lot of like confusion about dates, like graduation dates, because originally, if things had gone to plan and there hadn't been a pandemic, then I would have given birth and had plenty of time to study for my exams. But everything was scrapped. Everything was like changed around. So basically, I gave birth, I had a month off, I had to go back into the hospital to finish up some rotations, and then I had to do my exams like within, I think it was 6 weeks of giving birth. It was ridiculous. So I mean, it's not something I could have predicted, but definitely not something I would recommend for your final year. Yeah, so more on that, on the OSCE exam. So I actually studied so hard for this exam. Like, whenever we were doing like online learning, I created like a Zoom group where we practiced our OSCEs, and everyone just like went into each other's rooms, and like it was so, I feel like I put so much effort into organizing this OSCE study. But then because of the timing of the exam, I mean, yeah, Dana was just, like I said, 6 weeks old whenever I did the exam. Like, you can't remember anything whenever your baby's that young. You're just surviving. So it was just a joke. So of course I feel like it was a foregone conclusion that I was not going to pass the first time around. But I feel like I put in my best effort, and at the same time, like, I just felt everything, like the four walls were closing in on me. Like, my husband was having his own struggles because he was becoming a dad for the first time. Well, biological dad for the first time. He never even been around a baby, I don't think, in his life, like learning to change nappies. We were expecting to have like both of our parents over here within the first few months, and that was obviously canceled because they couldn't travel here. The borders in Australia have been closed. They're still closed. My parents and his parents have not met their grandchild. So we had no help. We had like all of this extra stress, and then I had exams to write. So this was real talk. Like, it was real talk. So, and then I failed my first time around. I'm like, I can't repeat this whole year because of like the unfortunate timing of this exam. So somehow, I don't even know from where, I found the strength to like redo the exam, and I'm like, I'll just do my best. Because I knew everything. I didn't know everything, but I knew enough to pass, because I had been studying so hard and like really, really put the time and the hours in. So it was just a matter of confidence and like portraying that I knew what I was doing and getting over that postpartum, anxiety, like haziness, So yeah, I luckily had a friend who was actually in the exact same situation, and I don't know what I would have done without her, to be honest. She was like, I know it was like sad, it's like bad to say, like, I'm glad my friend failed with me, but like, I don't know what I would have done without her. Like, we literally pushed each other through like pregnancy, and then giving birth, and then the postpartum challenges, and then both failing the exam, and luckily we both came out the other end, and we both passed on the supplemental exam, and yeah, both became doctors. So it was a happy ending in the end, but it wasn't the story that I was planning on having, especially for my final year. But I'm very, very, very happy that I have my son now. I have 2 boys, Jonas and Dana. He's literally such a little light of our lives, and I'm so grateful that he's here. I wouldn't change it for anything. But yeah, now I'm a mom of 2, and I'm a junior doctor, so that comes with its own set of challenges that I will post about soon. But I just wanted to share my story of being a 4th year medical student, pregnant during a pandemic. So until the next time, just keep moving and we'll talk again soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe.